Hello and welcome to Megan Viecelli Unscripted. I am very excited to introduce you to my guest today, Mr. Richard Snider. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
How are ya?
I'm pretty good considering the weather outside.
It's pretty bad, isn't it?
Pretty bad.
But we are inside. And I want to introduce you to all of our WLNS Plus viewers because you have quite the story, quite the history. I know right now you are a board member with Potter Park Zoo, but talk to us a little bit about your background.
Well, over the many years that I've been dealing with Michigan State University, I've served in a number of capacities in programs, and some of which I'm very proud of, and some I'm glad I retired from them. But that's true of most anybody working at a university. You'll end up with your favorite subject, your favorite type of students. You get used to certain offices, buildings. Would you believe it, in my 56 years, 60 years of being on MSU campus, there are buildings that were old buildings that I have never been in.
Really?
And new buildings I'll probably never have a reason to get in. So it's interesting how you can be on such a large facility and not actually be involved in certain buildings. And that came home to me years ago when the coach of the football team used to march through all the buildings every day with his assistant coaches as a way of introducing himself to the campus. He spent the better part of a year walking every floor in every building on the MSU campus and talking to everybody that he came across. He never stopped walking. What a way to introduce yourself to the faculty and students.
That's one way to do it.
So MSU is a gigantic city in itself, and as you would expect, lots of opportunities to do strange things. Like I came to MSU from a little town called Plymouth. Plymouth, Michigan is outside of Ann Arbor. I thought for years I was going to go to the University of Michigan. And it turned out my high school biology teacher saw that I liked insects. And he caught on to that, and he said, you know, Richard, you ought to be looking at a career in entomology. Well, that hit a real note because at that time, in our rural community of Plymouth, we had a 4-H club, and a 4-H club that was dedicated to the science of insects. So I was a staunch member of the insect group and a few others that are now retired, like myself, from the Smithsonian Institution and various labs, actually were members of that group back in the 40s and as in the 50s, and some of us graduated together and went to similar institutions. I came to MSU because MSU had a renowned entomology department, and I thought, bugs are me. And so when I graduated in 1957, I came to Michigan State from Plymouth and started my bachelor's program in the Department of Entomology. It turned out I was the first student they'd had undergraduate student, since about the end of World War II.
Really?
So they didn't know what to do with me. Professor Hudson, the head of the department, said, why don't you go up to the 4th floor of the Natural Science Building, which was built in 1948. There's the museum up there, and a guy by the name of Roland Fisher. Let him talk to you about insects. Well, Dr. Fisher was the curator of insects. And he latched on to me because I was a student that he could mold into a career of studying insects for the sake of studying insects. He liked that a lot. So I went up there and got a small job pinning insects for free.
Job.
For a year. Well, I was told that they couldn't pay me any money at the time because I had no experience.
Okay.
So I worked a year for nothing.
Yeah.
The next year, my beginning of sophomore year, Dr. Fisher said, I got good news. And I said, what's that? He says, we're going to pay you 50 cents an hour.
Oh.
I was in hog heaven.
Yeah, you were.
Well, that went on. And by my junior year, I was making $1 an hour.
Moving on up.
I was moving on up. But of course, in those days, we paid $6 a week for a room with breakfast available off campus. Can you imagine?
Not
$6
really.
a week. And most of us did not have cars, of course.
Right.
Dr. Hanna, or Mr. Hanna, did not really appreciate all the cars that were showing up on campus. And he made it clear that if you have a bicycle, I like you. So as time went on, we garnered people from other states, one at a time, here and there, to come to Michigan State and work on insects. We were never a big, powerful group, but we certainly hung together. Later on, my interest grew to the point where I did a master's degree in insect morphology and a group of organisms that are soil organisms, 1 millimeter or less in size.
Oh.
So I worked with a microscope, high-powered microscopes, 1,500 power, and in those days, and I became sort of an expert in that field. Later on, I started a PhD program, and one of the professors who wanted to develop a soil entomology program said, "Would you? I'll pay you to be an assistant, a teaching assistant, a lab assistant, whatever." And as time went on, we got grants together and so forth, and I worked through my PhD program that way.
Wow.
So it was wonderful. I never had a break in support from Dr. Fisher's 50 cents an hour at Michigan State all the way through my entire career.
Wow.
Except I had 4 years, and while I was finishing my PhD program as executive director of Waldemar Nature Center out here on the edge of Lansing, I was asked to take that over. You know what that did? And this is the kind of thing that we should always encourage with young people. Advantages pop up. And in my business, the advantage was Waldemar Nature Center. When I took over, it was broke in debt. It had a board with very prestigious board members, R.E. Olds Anderson, Gladys Olds Anderson, the daughter of R.E. Olds. She paid me.
Yeah.
I got a check from the family every month. The interesting thing was that they had the brains to let the people that worked at Waldemar develop the program that had greater and greater appeal. The next thing you know, we were working with the Lansing Public School District very tightly. And I must say that if it wasn't for the Lansing School District, Waldemar would never reach the proportions that it has.
Wow.
And then we got the designation of a national environmental landmark. And the boys from Washington came out and dedicated it. And the next thing you know, they sent me, Waldemar sent me to Stockholm to the environmental meeting in 19 69, I believe.
Okay.
It's hard to remember. For 2 weeks, I was in Stockholm with Barry Commoner and Margaret Mead and people like that. And all the young rascals that would become climatologists were there. And it was a ball. When I came back to Woldemar and Michigan State, I had a completely different view of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't out to save the world. I was out to understand it.
Okay.
I was trying to make it better from the small world of Woldemar and trying to get people to appreciate natural environments and do something about their retention or preserving them and keep moving on with this. Well, the next thing I know, I got an offer from Michigan State to come, even though I was just finishing the final strokes on my thesis, and I got a call from Dr. Baker, the director of the MSU Natural History Museum, and he was a great man. And he called up and he said, "Why don't you come back to Michigan State?" And I said, "Well, I really never left it because my thesis office was still in the Natural Science Building after." "Oh, well," he says, "I'll tell you what, you come on over and I'll introduce you to the staff." And I did, and he introduced me to the staff, and he said, "Here's the guy that's going to be in charge of the education and invertebrate biology program in the museum." And of course, Dr. Baker swung a big axe, and everybody sort of looked at me, and I looked at them, and the next thing you know, it was about a week later, I was on the payroll. And Woldemar still, I felt very bad about leaving Woldemar. We had accomplished a great deal out there, and I'm still very proud of that. But that was the start of integration, in my mind, of animal ethics to a certain extent, behavior on a very broad basis, the preservation of certain species and its importance, and how inspiring this could be to young people. And I include freshmen in college as young people.
Yeah.
So that did it, because when they turned me loose in the MSU Museum, we developed a field trip for school groups. So they come by the busloads, and we copied what we did at Woldemar inside the museum building.
Okay.
And it went from there. It just pell-melled. The next thing you know, I discovered that I was teaching invertebrate biology in the zoology department. I was teaching environmental biology to teachers coming back to finish degrees. It got real. I actually taught a soil biology class, and that went on for years.
Yeah.
One day, we got a new department chairman. By the heads of department were no longer there. They had all become chairmen. Later on, chairpersons. You know how that goes.
Yes.
Anyway, my chairman, Don Straney, who was a mammologist, came to me and he said, "You know, the students are sort of showing an interest in zoos and aquariums. I get questions in my mammalogy class about, are there any jobs? And would you look into that?" And I said, I started with my whole career with biology and animals, started at a young age because of, get ready for this, the Detroit Zoo. My grandparents, at a very early age, took me as part of their spoil system. You know how spoiled children are developed by happy grandparents.
Every time.
And so I ended up at the Detroit Zoo frequently with my grandparents, who never tired of the steam locomotive in those days, and the animals in the zoo that were there year after year after year. And we began to, as I got older, begin to see more of the zoo, because all I ever wanted to see were elephants and rhinos and lions, tigers. You know how it goes. The more dangerous it is,
The more fun.
the more you want to see it.
Yep.
I trace that back to my inspiration. I believe Megan and I have talked to you about that
Yes.
one. I grew up in an era with Frank Buck,
Yep.
the great animal importer, Hollywood name, worldwide reputation, wrote a book called Bring 'Em Back Alive, a book I think every teenager ought to read. It's a lot of fun, and sometimes you'll laugh, and sometimes you'll say, I can't believe he did that. He became a great inspiration to me.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to get into your role at Potter Park. All right, welcome back. Richard, you're telling me about your role at Potter Park Zoo as a board member. How did that come about?
That became questionable at the start. I very much liked Potter Park Zoo. It was a small zoo. It was a friendly zoo. The setting was beautiful. And I gravitated toward the freedom of walking amongst the various exotic animals and domestic animals that they had, and not having any time limits, and seeing kind of the impact that the zoo had on its visitors. Well, the next thing you know, I ran into a curator director by the name of Jerry Brady. Jerry Brady he was a wild man. He had his master's degree in animal physiology and management, and Jerry had some good ideas, and he opened the zoo a little wider than had happened from its early days, and was open to new ideas. And he said, why don't you come over and visit with me? And I said, yeah. So I went over eventually, and we talked about his goals and what they were doing and so forth. I met Jim Sikarsky from Michigan State. Dr. Jim was a veterinarian who did the work over there for free, a volunteer.
Oh, wow.
And Dr. Jim was a wildlife biologist veterinarian. And he, right up until the recent era, Jim was in charge of the animal care. Well, the important thing was that we all became good friends. And Jerry introduced me at a board meeting of the Potter Park Zoo Society. And we had lunch, and this was in the old botanical house off of the I-94 cut through town. It was part of the Olds estate. Anyway, the interesting thing was that I got an invite to sort of participate now and then and help. And then the next thing you know, I'm going to some meetings. And that was very nice. But it took until 1994 when we got formal with the MSU program. The president of the university says, I'm going to give you $60,000 to start that program and not ask any real questions, except it better be progressive. I said, yes, I understand.
Deal.
And we did the job. at the time that was happening, the zoo industry, get this, for a keeper to get a job anywhere in North America, you had to have a diploma from high school.
Oh,
That was it.
that's it?
Many of those positions were patronage jobs.
Okay.
And so people were hired that had no business working with animals or people in some cases. And the pay was terrible. So in '94, when I had talked to the various directors of the Michigan zoos, and they had a lot to do with this, and Jerry Brady was saying, do it, do it, do it, and brought this together, and it was obvious we had to have better communication, better education. I got 600 job descriptions that were available in about 1993 through the publication of the Zoo Society's Word. Well, I read those descriptions and everything. I said, this is terrible. You're hiring people that are not qualified to deal with exotic animals that are literally held in captivity, never to leave captivity, that reproduce in captivity. And that's where the zoo, I give the zoo people like at Detroit Zoo, Binder Park Zoo, Grand Rapids Zoo, Potter Park Zoo, the Saginaw Zoo, all of these people wanted better quality and more of a role in the community. And that's what we did. We provided that.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, 10 years later, I'm reading job descriptions. There wasn't a job description that didn't require a bachelor's degree to get a zookeeper's job.
Wow.
And that started at Michigan State.
Yeah.
Well, as the years go by, then I accepted a responsibility of serving on the zoo board. And I've been on there 30 years or so. And
Wow.
the interesting thing is that the board has become very demanding, intelligent in their decisions. They understand their role in society here in Lansing. Now, what I say now about Lansing Zoo Board is true of Detroit, Binder Park, Chicago, you name it, any of the Miami Zoo, Disney.
Yeah.
They're all the same. They have a code of ethics they follow. They're very careful about keeping up to date with the latest developments. They want to have visibility, not just locally, but nationally, and some of them internationally. There are exchange programs going on. Potter Park was one of the first zoos in the country to have an exchange program between an African warrior from Kenya and the zoo.
It's so cool.
I have had some of my students in the program intern in South Africa at Kruger and at Pretoria at the National Zoo in South Africa. I've had some of the students intern in Germany, England. Oh, England is always good.
Yeah.
England. France was always difficult. Did sneak one into France, however.
Okay.
Italy. Italy would always call, somebody from a zoo over there would call up and describe very quickly what they wanted, and we could never quite find a student that could speak Italian.
Oh.
And so it was it would have been very difficult. Now, I don't think I don't
Yeah.
think there'd be any problem.
Right, right.
But it was interesting how these students, and in South America, we had students down there. We sent Mexico. I used to send students to the Mexico. There's some beautiful zoos in Mexico. The interesting thing was I sent students down to Ecuador and tried to get them into Peru because Lima Zoo is gigantic,
Okay.
beautiful dioramas of animals. Oh, they're gorgeous.
Wow.
If you ever want to see jaguars, that's the place to go.
Put it
Anyway,
on my list.
the interesting thing was that Michigan State put its tentacles all over the place. And I even got the cooperation of the trainers for Siegfried and Roy. So I would get interested people asking about, could I ever train with Siegfried and Roy? Well, Siegfried and Roy didn't do the training.
Right, right.
So the trainers was a highly respected Hollywood director, the guy that always burned up in the movies on a motorcycle and go off the end of the dock. He did that. I mean, all those dangerous things.
Yeah.
He and his wife, Anna, they had a pet tiger that walked through their house. And I was talking about sending students out there. And she said, oh, yeah, come out. I've got, we've had to cage up the baboon because we've had a child and the baboon is jealous. And you know what could happen. But they still had a tiger wandering around.
Okay.
And they were training. They would go to Siegfried and Roy's facility and train for so many weeks on a regular basis.
Wow.
And she described all that to me. And I was young and still young, quote unquote, enough to be enthusiastic about it. And I thought to myself, after what happened to Roy when the tiger attacked him, I was thinking to myself, thank the Lord and Michigan State, we never had that happen.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? So there are certain things about working with animals where you have to be careful, whether it's tarantulas or leopards.
Right.
You have to be very, very careful and use your head. And so as the years went by, I'm very proud of our students and the MSU faculty that made this happen.
Yeah, that is incredible.
And it was faculty in various departments that made this whole thing blossom and grow. And the Potter Park Zoo Society played a big role.
Yeah.
The Potter Park Zoo staff played a very large role, and they accepted our students for training. And without them, we wouldn't be where we are today.
That is amazing.
So, to me, Potter Park Zoo was a wonderful combination between the science departments, the education departments, parks and recreation, design, and the veterinary school at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was
That's
a
awesome.
wonderful cauldron that we stirred together, said the right words over, and it blossomed.
Yeah.
So
It's
the
incredible.
The board at Potter Park Zoo should be very proud of itself because it had allowed, I think, an important program to develop, and they are responsible for keeping it going.
Richard, we are running out of time. I could talk to you all day about this.